Hello everyone, good afternoon. I, Mahima Patel, extend a warm welcome to all of you to the second online event of Sitecore User Group Nagpur. Something very exciting has happened since the last time we met and today, that is announcement of 2024 MVP awards. So I would like to take a moment to congratulate everyone who has achieved or received this award. You have done a fabulous job. And the ones aspiring to be the one this year, I wish you all the very best for your journey. Now, talking about today's session, it revolves around same premise personalization as our previous one, but it is about personalization in XM Cloud. And I'm really excited to introduce today's speaker, Anna Javel. Anna Javel is distinguished figure, having earned Sitecore MVP award 4 times consecutively from 2021 to 2024. With over a decade of experience, she stands as a seasoned solution architect in the field. In today's session, which is supported by Proficient, Anna will elucidate the differentiation between personalization of classic Sitecore XP versus Sitecore XM Cloud. She'll deep dive into intricacies of setting up personalization, highlight common pitfalls, and describe some methods to troubleshoot them. Firstly, congratulations, Anna, for receiving Sitecore MVP Award. It is truly a remarkable achievement. I hope you're all set to begin. Before I pass it on to you, I'd like to request all the participants to pose the question if they have any in the chat window, and we'll take it up at the end. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
That's great. Okay, I'll start presenting. Thanks very much for joining. Thank you for taking your time.
It's our pleasure.
So great. So yeah, let's start. Quick intro from me. My name is Anna. I'm solutions architect at ByteMinds, Sitecore MVP for the last 4 years. And if you have any questions during this presentation or you just want to chat, feel free to reach out to me using any of these channels. Okay, let's move on. What we are going to talk about today, about personalization, specifically in XM Cloud, how it works, how it works behind the scenes, what are the technical elements of it, how we'll look at steps for configuring personalization, what's required to set it up, and the last bit, we'll look at troubleshooting steps, what we can do to investigate issues if we face any. And before we start looking at how it works behind the scenes, I just wanted to highlight some key differences between the classic XP, personalization in our classic Sitecore XP instances in XM Cloud. Because if you are like me, you've probably been working with the classic XP for many, many years, you know it inside out, and it just really helps to understand some key principles and what's different, what we can expect from this new platform. So if we look at the classic XP on the left-hand side, what we know about it, some key principles are that rules are stored in the Sitecore content database. Yeah, we know that our layout XML field contains all the personalization rules, all the conditions, and what should happen when they are met. And these rules, they run on the content delivery server. So when a page is requested, a request comes to our content delivery server, and content delivery server is responsible for executing these rules and serving the personalized page. Then the next point is that we personalize content component by component. If you remember, experience editor or content editor screens where we can just select one of the renderings and click the personalize button to open this dialog where we can create rules and define what should happen when these rules are met. And last but not least, with the classic XP, we've got full control over XDB data retention. What that means is that Sitecore doesn't clean up any of this data automatically unless we configure some of the cleanup routines. And it's good and bad. Good thing is that we can decide how much data we want to store and for how long. But at the same time, we need to care about it and be careful when we want to clean this data, because we don't want XDB to grow too much, because it will just become unmanageable. On the contrary, when we look at XM Cloud, I will just name some key principles here, and then we will look in details at what they mean. The first point, rules are stored in Personalize, in the embedded version of Sitecore Personalize that comes with XM Cloud. And in XM, in the layout field, they are only referenced by audience ID, and I'll show you what that means. The second point is that rules are triggered by our rendering host, by our Next.js application, or whichever framework we use for the front end. And they're triggered by the rendering host, but they're executed inside Sitecore Personalize. Then the next point, XM Cloud, at least when it was released initially, it requires that pages are personalized rather than components. What you can see, I've put an asterisk here, and there's a disclaimer saying, because Sitecore receive lots of feedback to this feature, they announced that XM Cloud will also support personalization on components level, which is good. To be honest, I've not checked if it's been released yet or not, but it's good. It's coming. And the final bit, it's about data retention. In XM Cloud, data is stored if nothing has changed for 30 or 90 days, depending on your license level. So to summarize this, in Classic XP, the focus is on condition and components. If we remember conditional rendering, this is exactly how it works in Classic XP. And XM Cloud, there's more focus on audiences and page variants. And this is because this is powered by Sitecore Personalize, which is originally, it's a marketing tool. That's why there's more focus on audiences and page variants. All right, so these are some key differences. I hope this will help with our next slides. Now, let's take a look at how this whole thing works inside out. When we talk about Next.js applications, there are two main approaches: server-side rendering and static-side generation. And when we talk about personalization in XM Cloud, these two approaches work slightly differently. So we'll start from server-side rendering because it's more similar to our classic XP process. So what we see on this diagram, we've got our browser on the left-hand side. At the top, we've got our Next.js application, and Next.js application is connected to two APIs. This API on the left is our GraphQL endpoint. It can be either Experience Edge if our website is hosted in the cloud, or if we are just working locally, developing locally, testing locally, it can be connected to our local container and XM API in this container. And the second API is CDP and Personalize, tracking and interactive API. This will be the embedded version of CDP and Personalize instance. Okay, so how this works, what happens when a browser, a visitor comes to the website and the browser will send a request to our Next.js application. What Next.js will do? It will kick in personalized middleware, and I will explain what it is and where it comes from. So personalized middleware, what it will do, it will send an API request to GraphQL to receive a list of personalized variants for this page. For example, this is the home page, and we've got 3 variants on it for different groups of people. So we'll have this information in the middleware. Then what it will do, it will send the second API request to the CDP and Personalize instance, attaching some information about the current visitor that we know already, and then it will do some matching. If the current visitor matches one of the audiences that we've got personalization for, then it will render the personalized variant and return it to browser. The browser will render this personalized page, And the final step that will happen on the client side in browser, React component will send an API request to CDP and Personalize to track this page view. And it will attach some information, what this page was, whether it was personalized or not, what was the audience. So later on in the reports, we'll be able to see how many personalized pages were shown. Did they perform better or not? So we'll be able to tell that. Now, if we compare it to static site generation, we've got all the same elements on the screen. It starts in the same way. User comes to our website, the browser sends a request to our Next.js application. And then the difference here is that personalized middleware will have some pre-generated pages here. And in the path, it will know which audience is relevant for each personalized page variant. Then it will still send the API request to the CDP and Personalize API, because we need to understand if the current visitor matches any of these audiences. And if there is a match, the page will be personalized, returned to the browser, and in the browser, our React component will send a tracking request to record this page view with all information attached to it. All right, so that's how it works. As you've seen on previous slides, there's some personalized middleware, what it is, and where does it come from. It comes with the Next.js Personalize add-on. This add-on is provided by Sitecore, and it can be installed when you create a new XM Cloud project. And it's just designed for quick start for XM Cloud projects with embedded personalization. It contains a few elements, and just two that I wanted to highlight are the personalized middleware that we've seen on previous slides. This is just a Next.js middleware. It's a standard concept within Next.js that does all the magic of sending API requests, doing the matching, rewriting the path to serve the correct personalized page variants. And the CDP page view, it is a client React component that sends page view events, and behind the scenes, it uses standard Sitecore Engage SDK that we can use with any website, just with CDP and Personalize. So behind the scenes, it uses the standard approach. It just allows to convert data efficiently and send these tracking requests. And there are a couple of points that I wanted to highlight here. This add-on is only compatible with XM Cloud because it uses some naming conventions and some pre-configured structure within Sitecore Personalize. That's why it makes sense to use it only with XM Cloud websites. And also when we create new project using the foundation template, what's good about it, that Sitecore will automatically create CDP and personalized tenants and will allow managing point of sales through the UI. So this is also good. Comes out of the box, and there's this good documentation page from Sitecore that explains all of it. And then SSG consideration that I wanted to highlight as well. By default, for static site generation, generation of personalized page variants is disabled by default. Sitecore disables it to save on the build time, because providers for Next.js, for example, Vercel, they have some limits on the build time. That's why we need to watch this build time, and this is why by default Sitecore disables generation of all the personalized page variants. Having said that, this can be enabled if it is required. When it can work, for example, if you've got a limited number of pages, a really small number of pages with personalization, but these pages are critical. For example, this is your home page or some key landing pages, and you want them to be as fast as possible. In this case, you can enable static generation at build time. You just need to go to the GraphQL sitemap service and set the include personalized routes to true. And this will instruct Next.js to to pre-generate all page variants. If you don't do that, static site generation will still be used, but these personalized variants, they will be generated at request time. So when they are requested for the first time, they will be generated and still saved on the disk. So when the next request comes, this pre-generated version will already be on the disk. So SSG will still work in this case. It's just not happening at build time. And if you decide to enable this, just keep an eye on your build time because you can exceed it quickly. All right, so now that we understand some key principles, we can look at how to configure personalization. What do we need to do to set it up? And there are 5 simple steps. I will go step by step, but basically we'll just need to create a site identifier or point of sale. We can do this in XM Cloud. Thanks to the UI provided out of the box. And point of sale, if you worked with Sitecore CDP and Personalize before, you're familiar with this term, but basically it's just an identifier for your website. For example, you've got 3 websites in your Sitecore instance, the main corporate website, maybe a shop, and a customer portal. Let's say these 3 sites, they can use different site identifiers. So when you do tracking and personalization, when you look at the reports, you'll clearly see the reports for each of these websites. Then the second step, again, we do it in XM Cloud. We assign the site identifier to the website. Step number 3 requires developer involvement because we'll need to configure environment variables for our Next.js application. And it can be your favorite code editor or even text editor. And the last 2 steps is for marketeers, really. We create a page variant, define some rules for these audiences, and finally, we'll be able to create some personalized content. Now, let's go step by step. The first step is creating a site identifier. So what we do, we log into the XM Cloud portal, switch to the settings tab here, and under site identifiers, we'll see a list of the point of sales that have been created already. You see, I've got 1 already, but if I don't have any, I just click create new, and it will show this simple form. We just need to put a name of this website, maybe domain as recommended here, select a language, define the market. It can be a country or it can be global. Put the brand name here and define timeout in minutes. This timeout is just used for grouping page view events in Sitecore CDP after a certain timeout. For example, if the visitor is inactive after 30 minutes, like in this case, it will mean that the session is finished. And when I click save, this new site identifier will be added to the table. What we do next, we switch back to the Sites tab where we see all our websites. We click three dots here, and in the Settings menu, under Site Identifiers tab, we will see a list of site identifiers, but not all of them, only those that are assigned to the current website. And what we can do, because I've got only 1 language on this website, and I've got some site identifiers configured for this project already, I can just click Assign and select one of them from the dropdown. And that's really it. What we've just done, we've connected our admin interface of XM Cloud, this website, to the instance of Sitecore Personalize, and we've also defined where the rules, where all the reports should come from this website. But our front-end application, our Next.js application, doesn't know anything about it yet. What we need to do, we need to connect our front-end application to the same instance of Sitecore Personalize, plus the same point of sale or site identifier that we've just created. So how we do that? In the same interface in XM Cloud, we switch to developer settings, and we'll see all the environment variables that we may need to connect in this. So we just go to our website code, go to the .env file, and we need to define these three settings: CDP target URL, client key, and point of sale. This will be needed for the communication between our Next.js application and the embedded version of Sitecore Personalize. And once we've done it, we've built our application. That's it. Our front end can now talk to Sitecore Personalize. And what we can do, we can start and we can go and start creating some personalized content. What I'm doing here in the pages interface, I've just selected a page from the tree that I want to personalize. In my case, it is About Us page. And then I click the Personalize menu here. And what I'll see, I will see all page variants configured for the current page. At the moment, I just have one default. All pages will have it out of the box. So this variant will be shown to everybody regardless of any conditions. But if I want to create a personalized version of this page, I click this button, Create Variant, and this is a two-step wizard. On the first step, I just need to enter a name of my page variant that will be shown here. For example, I want to personalize content for visitors that clicked a link from an email campaign. So I name it a campaign variant, click Next, and this is where we can define the actual rules. So we've got our name here, and then we can combine multiple rules here, select any that we want. In my case, I just look at the UTM campaign parameter, and I want that it's test campaign in my example. But you can combine multiple rules, you can define groups, and this list includes out of the box rules, some standard stuff like geolocation. We can look at countries, regions. We can look at previously visited pages and do something based on this logic. We can check if this is a new or returning visitor based on cookies. So that will work as well. And after saving, when I click Save, it's also interesting what happens behind the scenes. XM Cloud portal will send an API request to Sitecore Personalize. And it's interesting to see what's inside it. What it does, it updates or creates interactive experience definition. This is basically how personalization works inside Sitecore Personalize. It is based on interactive or full stack experiences. So Sitecore will do it for us. It will create it in Sitecore Personalize. Remember, I mentioned that it uses some naming conventions. This is where we can see it. So the ID of this experiment equals embedded underscore, then GUID of my page about us. It will be needed when the front end calls this API. It will be able to send this GUID, the language version of this page, and see the list of rules here. Then the name, again, it uses naming conventions, as we can see. And the most interesting part is these traffic splits. This is how it is configured inside Sitecore Personalize. You can see audience name. This is what I've entered here. And then under conditions, I've got my condition. You see campaign, type campaign, it compares to, is equal to, and my UTM value. So this is where the logic of this condition is stored. It's inside Sitecore Personalize. And do you remember when I said that the rules are stored in Sitecore Personalize, but they are referenced by audience ID? This variant ID is how this condition will be linked to personalized content that is stored in Sitecore XM Cloud. So for now, just remember this GUID 2502 because we'll see it later. This basically is the identifier of this condition. And the final step, After adding our audience conditions, we can switch to the content. So I've just collapsed this menu on the left so that we can see the full content. And after doing that, after creating the personalized variants, what we will see, we'll start seeing these yellow frames on the page around components. And if we hover over it, we will see that this rich text component is not personalized yet. And what we can do, we can click it and we will see the sidebar on the right-hand side, where we can define how we want to personalize content. For example, we can replace the data source of this component, or we can replace it with a different component. For example, instead of rich text, I will want to show some banner. Or we can hide the component completely. And as soon as we apply some changes here, this yellow frame will turn green, and we will see that this component is personalized. And then we can start changing the content here. And this dialog can actually remind you of something, because we've seen this data source, component, and height fields somewhere else. So if we go to the content editor, we'll see what happens behind the scenes. So in XM Cloud, we can still use content editor. So if I go to my About Us page and go to the presentation details, yeah, in the list of controls, I will see that actually there are two variants of my rich text component. So if I click personalize, I will see this dialog with all the same data. You see, I'm personalizing the data source for this component, and look at this GUID. It's the same variant ID. So this is how inside Sitecore layout, this personalized data source is connected to that condition that is stored inside Sitecore, inside personalize, yeah, using this GUID. So you see it's the same 2502. Okay, and another bonus from me. When Sitecore just announced that XM Cloud will come with some personalization, some embedded personalization that will be connected to Sitecore Personalize, I did wonder if Sitecore created all the personalization rules here, and we will be able to customize them. But when I looked at it, I realized that no. In fact, there's just one personalization rule definition here, which is called audience visitor is invariant, and the parameter is GUID that we pass. So we cannot really change the rules here. It's just one technical item that is configurable. But I think the good thing about it is that Sitecore can update available rules within Sitecore Personalize without even us needing to deploy anything to our website. So that's good. Okay, so now we've configured everything, and our personalization should start working, right? Or maybe not. At least for me, it wasn't the case. And when I've configured everything as per documentation, nothing was working. So I started troubleshooting and just wanted to share these troubleshooting steps with you. So hopefully they will help if you face any of these issues. The first thing that we need to check is that our tracking is working. When I configured all the variables, triggered a few page view events, waited for some time, I still didn't see any data here. So you see on the right-hand side, there's no data, everything is zero, no graphs. And it means that my tracking isn't working for some reason. So what we can do, when we load our page in the browser, we just need to open DevTools and check that there is a post request on the network tab to API engage. It doesn't have to be EU, it can be a different region, it can be different version, but it will still be API engage Sitecore Cloud. So if you see this request, but it still doesn't work, also check the browser console for any errors, because in my case, it was an incorrect point of sale that I configured. That's why it wasn't working. So you'll be able to see and decrypt these errors. If you don't see any request to this endpoint at all, make sure that the component CDP page view, this one that comes with the personalized add-on, and the scripts file, they are included in your layout, because if they are not included, no tracking will be working on this website. So if you've configured everything correctly and you see all the requests, this is how the analyze screen will look like. You will start seeing some numbers, some charts, which is good. It's working. So for me, I fixed the tracking. I could see some numbers, but personalization still wasn't working for me. So I had this, how do I even understand what's happening? Because in my classic XP, I can attach to the process, I can debug, I can do something. What do I do with my container? In fact, for our Next.js application, we can enable debug level logs for the rendering host. And it's as simple as adding one of these lines to the env file. If you just want to see logs from the personalized middleware, use this second one. So you will start seeing something like this in your container logs. You see the middleware started, some additional messages. Actually, there will be a lot of information. So how do we understand what's actually happening, what's causing problems? So I've collected some common errors that can be happening and what do we need to do about them. The first one that I saw, and this was the main reason why my personalization wasn't working, I saw this message: personalized middleware is disabled. So when I started searching for it, I realized that by default, in development environment, this personalized middleware is disabled. So if we go to the file middleware plugins personalized.ts and look at the function disabled, you will see out of the box something like this. If environment is development, then it will be disabled. So what I did for my testing, I just set it to false, just to do some testing, just to check that it's working. But in production, you will need to implement your own logic. For example, if you want to add some cookie consent validation to avoid tracking and personalization until users are accepted, until users accepted cookies, then this is where you can do it. Okay, so I've enabled middleware, but still my personalization was working, but there were hints in the logs. I saw some timeouts. Actually, both XM API and Personalize API were timing out for me. Maybe, I don't know, it's just my network on my laptop, but both APIs were timing out for me. It's easy to see in the logs. It just says request times out, and before it, you will be able to see which exactly, which of them is timing out. And the value of this timeout, you will see it as well. So that was the case for me. So what I did, at least for my local environment, I increased these two variables in the .env file just for testing purposes, because I suspect it's just because of my development environment configuration. Maybe, I don't know, Docker didn't have enough resources to run, so additional time was required. So after this, I actually started seeing some personalized content on my website, which was exciting. But what can also happen is you may see personalization skipped messages. And there are a few reasons why it can be happening. I just quickly fly through them. The first one is if you pass an incorrect page route or language, it will just say personalized info not found. Basically, it means it's a 404 page. So we don't need to personalize anything. Then the second message, no personalization configured. It means that for this page, when we pass the GUID and language version of this page, there were no personalized variants configured for it. That's why it's skipped, which is also expected. But maybe if you expected something, you'll need to compare the GUID of the page, the language, make sure that, that it matches what you expect to see. Then the third one is browser ID that cannot be generated. If you worked with, I just need to take a step back. If you worked with Sitecore CDP before, you know what browser ID is. It's basically just an identifier of the current visitor that is stored in cookies. When you use Engage SDK for tracking, it will be automatically generating browser ID. So if it's a returning visitor, we will have that browser ID cookie on the server side. So we don't need to generate it. We'll just attach it, or personalized middleware will attach it to all requests to a personalized API, so that personalize knows which user we are talking about. But if it is the very first visit from the browser, there's no cookie, then in order to send the very first request to personalize API, this middleware needs to generate a browser ID, and it will send again another API request to Sitecore CDP to generate this browser ID, but it may fail. Why it could happen? Usually it's because of some incorrect settings in .env file. Maybe point of sale is incorrect, maybe client secret or API, API URL is incorrect. So just double check your .env file. Then the next one is no audience found for the current visitor. So what it means, middleware sent a request to the Edge GraphQL endpoint. It received a list of variants for this page. Then it sent the second request to personalize API, but personalize API said that actually, no, this current visitor doesn't match any of the audience defined. That's why no suitable variant was identified for this visitor, and the default variant will be shown to this user. Again, this is expected behavior, but if you are debugging it, it may be helpful. And the final one, which is a bit of an odd one, but still can happen in some cases, the second request to personalize API returned an audience, but the Edge endpoint didn't return such audience in the list of page variants. And this is a strange situation. It shouldn't really happen when you're just using this personalization tool. But why you can, in theory, see it is if you packaged some content, for example, moved it around and changed in one environment but not the other. This is when it can go out of sync. So just go to your environment, save the personalization rules again through the UI, and this error should be resolved. This basically means that there is some mismatch between your layout personalization rules and the personalization audiences stored inside CoPersonalize. Yeah, so these are some common errors. In theory, you can also see some more generic API errors and what can help to troubleshoot them. It's just looking at the logs, and for XM or Edge API requests, you will see all the request details, URL, headers, the query that was sent. So you can grab these details from logs and try running it in a tool, for example, like Postman. So you'll be able to replicate this issue and understand what's going on, why it returns an error. In my case, I saw it when my CM container URL was incorrect. So this Edge API request was just going to a wrong domain, which wasn't even available. So after seeing that log message, I was able to fix it and it started working. And the same applies to personalized API requests as well. You'll be able to see your URL, and also all the details such as client key, point of sale, the friendly ID of our interactive experience. Remember, this is where we use naming conventions. So you'll be able to see that this is the actually correct page ID and correct language, and also all the parameters. So yeah, that's also useful. And if everything is working correctly, you are seeing some successful responses in logs, but for some reason personalization still doesn't work, it can also be useful just to look at the response details. So this is an example of response from GraphQL endpoint, and it just returns the layout for the current page. We see our page grid, and we see under personalization, we see the list of variant IDs. And remember this GUID 2502, this is where it's used. So it will be returned by our GraphQL endpoint. And also response from personalize API, it will tell us which audience was returned for the current user. So it may also help us. For example, we expected one rule to be working for the visitor, but maybe there's another rule with a higher priority that was triggered before that. That's why we're not seeing the correct content. So it's also helpful for troubleshooting. All right. And finally, if all the steps worked correctly, you will see successful result. And you will see what exactly happened, which variant ID was used. Just ignore this GUID here. I used a different log message here. We would see our 2502 here if it was selected. So this is the rewrite path that will be used for our page, the browser ID of our current user. So yeah, that's what we'll see. And if we see this message in our logs, congratulations, it means personalization is working. Well done. Thank you for joining today. I hope this was interesting and useful for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now or reach out to me later. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing this valuable piece of information, Anna. It was a super cool presentation. Along with all the animations and settings that you added, it made it much more clear and understandable. And XM Cloud being Sitecore's flagship product, and as most of the customers are moving toward XM Cloud, knowing about the personalization feature will be a great addition to everybody's knowledge, and I'm sure that it will help them in their work definitely. Let's see if anybody have any question.
Hi Anna, Neha this side. I have one question. Like we were talking
Mhm.
about embedded personalization in XM Cloud, and we saw that we are in a way using Sitecore's other products, which is CDP and personalized. Like we need
Mhm.
that point of sale, and we need to do those settings. So when somebody buys an XM Cloud license, I'm not sure how the licensing stuff works. So to use personalized, will they have to buy the licenses of those two products as well, or will it be an added thing with the XM Cloud product or that license?
Yeah, as far as I know, embedded version of personalization will come with XM Cloud, so it's out
Mm-hmm.
of the box. But there's also an option to have some extended license that will provide you access to the personalized interface. Because what I've
Okay.
just shown is the embedded version of it, and you don't have access to like all the standard personalized screens,
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yes.
all the reports, all that stuff. So as far as I know, there's an option to extend the license to have that access as well, so that you can use all features of personalize as well.
Yes, because we saw when you were showing the page insights that feature is in the XM Cloud Pages app, right? So
Yeah.
then there's like we can if we create that point of sale, because I have seen the CDP and personalized interface, so they have their own
Mhm.
domain and then their separate
Yeah.
portal wherein we can track all of the insights. So that
Mhm.
that being said, that there are two separate things. So if I do not extend my license, I will be able to see all of those insights in the page insights itself. And will that
Yeah.
suffice? Like that is all the tracking that we do when we were
Yeah.
looking
That's all.
at. Okay. So when we were looking at the
Yeah.
browser page, there was a arrow to the tracking and interaction API of CDP and Personalize. So all the insights that are recorded there will be shown in the page insights feature only.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
but there are some limitations. For example, as far as I know, in Personalize, you can use audience segments, for example, and within XM Cloud, at least for now, there's no connection. There's no way to set up some audience segments or do things
Segmentation.
like segmentation or like importing your customer data from somewhere else to use CDP. So that's not included.
This is just this just focus on personalizing experiences on the basis of audiences. That's it. Not anything
Yeah,
extended like you create segmentation and then decisioning all of that stuff. All
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you. You answered it
Yeah,
really
good
well.
question. Thank you.
Any other question from anybody?
If
Okay.
there isn't any, I can ask one. I have one, Mahima.
Yeah,
Hi, Anna. Vikrant
yeah,
here.
go ahead.
I have one question. Like, can we try this thing, like personalized thing, on a during local development?
Yes, yeah, we can do. We still need to have our XM Cloud instance, because it will, when we create it, it will also create the personalized embedded tenant. Yeah, because we need it to grab these settings like API, URLs, client secrets, and set up site identifiers or point of sales. So we still need to that, but we can also use it locally. So we can connect our local website to the same settings, and we will be able to debug and troubleshoot or see how personalization works.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
did I answer
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. Thanks.
that? Okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay. I think that was the end of our Q&A session, as I don't see any more questions. Uh, Although if anybody have any question in future regarding this topic, you can definitely reach out to Anna, and as she already said that she'll be glad to answer all of those. And any
Yeah.
questions regarding any questions regarding Sitecore User Group Nagpur, you can direct it to me or anyone from the organizing team, which is Neha, Sumit, and Vikrant. With this, I would like to thank everyone for joining, showing your support towards Sitecore User Group Nagpur's initiative. It motivates all of us to bring many more such sessions to all of you. Thank you very much and have a good rest of the day to all of you. Thanks.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for joining.
So on.
Thank you.